Coding Mama. In my previous video, we discussed a Python code to convert Roman numerals to integers, and today we are going to be doing the reverse of that, which is converting integers to Roman numerals in Python. So our goal is to convert an integer to a Roman numeral, and in order to accomplish this, we need to understand the rules for Roman numerals. Roman numerals are written from the largest valued character to the smallest valued character. So in our previous example, we used x v is equal to 25, and this is just meaning you would do xxv is equal to 25 as opposed to vxx, where v is a smaller value character. As you can see down here in this table, v is equal to 5 and x is equal to 10. We see that this is the correct way to write 25, not this way. So a lot of times though, when we look at Roman numerals, we see something down here, like in our example at the bottom, in which we have a smaller valued character before a larger valued character. And that's what this little asterisk here is showing us, is sometimes a smaller valued character precedes a larger valued one. This means that the smaller valued character is going to be subtracted from the larger valued one. So for instance, if you have an I before an X, we look at our table, we see that X is equal to 10, so we would subtract I, which is equal to 1, so we would end up getting 9. For XXIV, we have our two largest valued characters first. This is good so far. Then we have an I, and after it comes a V. So this smaller valued character is preceding this larger valued character, so we would subtract it from that following larger valued character. So X is 10, 10, and then 5 minus 1 is equal to 24. Okay, so how would we go about logically approaching putting a character in to a Roman numeral? So let's cut this symbols chart and move it to our next page. So we have it, and here it is for reference. Now, how can we take an integer, let's just say 57. So let me turn it back to pen. Let's take 57 and convert that to Roman numerals. So how would we go about doing that conversion? So first of all, we know that we're going to need to start by writing our largest valued character. And we see that in our list of characters over here, we do have a character that corresponds to 50. So I would start by writing down that largest valued character, which is an L. And then I've taken care of 50 of 57. So logically what I would do is I would just go on and subtract that from this number here. So 57 minus 50 is equal to 7. And so now I would just write the Roman numerals that correspond to 7, which would be V, I. Now, what if we have something more complicated? Let's say we have 462. for instance, how would we approach solving 462? I would look at my chart and I would think, how do I write the largest valued character for this? So I know that D is 500 and C is 100. So C does not equal 400. CD is equal to 400. So armed with this knowledge, what I would do is I would write CD. Now this is 400. So then I would subtract 400 from my original number, and I'm left with 62. So now I just have to worry about 62. How do I write 62? Well, my largest valued characters to write 62 would be L plus 10. So LX would be 60. So we would have 62 minus 60 is equal to 2. Now, so you see where this is going. So 2 is just equal to I. So that's how we would get 462. That's how I logic my way through this. Now, if I was to put this into Python code, it would have a horrible runtime and it would be really slow. But that's what we're going to do today anyway, is to write code that does essentially the same logic that I just performed for you manually. So how would I do this? I would start by writing a function, and I would define my function as, let's say, int to Roman, for Roman numeral. So what I would put in would be a number, and of course that would be an integer. And what I want to get out of this is a string of Roman numeral characters. I am going to start by making a blank list for me to start assembling my characters. So I'm going to call that list L, and it is completely empty. Now, for I in range 3 times my number, and you may ask why I'm doing it like this, and really there's ways to improve it. Actually, one good way would be to use a while loop here, so that's probably what I'll do. While num greater than 0, I'm going to go through a list of commands. So if that number is greater than or equal to 1000, I'm going to append to my list the character M. And essentially that's what I just did for you manually. But then I need to make sure that I actually subtract that. So num is equal to num minus 1000. So I'm going to go on and run a shortened version of what I want to do and make sure that my loop is working appropriately. So I'm going to do int to Roman, and I'm going to do 2000. Oops, I actually should finish this. Apologies. I'm going to return, so I made a list, so join, I need to join join the elements of the list together as a string. Let's see if I can run this. Let me run what I just ran. So that's good, and it breaks out of the while loop appropriately. So now I'm going to do that for each of my different conditions. So equal to 900. Now I'm going to use an elif statement here because I want to skip to it if that preceding statement is false. And you may be wondering why, if the next Roman numeral character is D for 500, why I'm using the number 900 here. It's because there are discrete chunks that we can subtract. So I can subtract 100 from 1000 by doing the characters CM. So then that CM is equal to 900. So I'm going to do that for each of my different possible conditions, and I'll go through that. So for instance, what I can do is tab this appropriately. Is I can append, if my number is greater than 500, if I want to subtract 500, I would just append D to that list. Then I can precede D with a C to equal 400, so I can append 400 to that list, and so on and so forth. So let me run this, and then let me put in an integer. I'm going to do 2000. Actually, let's do something from our example. So we did 462, and we would get CDL XII, which is what we did get previously when we did it by hand. If I wanted to do another one of our previous examples, let's do 57. LVII, which is what we got when we worked it out by hand. This is just one way that we can solve this type of question. And again, it was just a systematic approach by subtracting the value that we had accounted for each time from that starting number, and then using these commands down here at the bottom to return a string of values, which in this case were those Roman numeral characters that we had put into that list. So again, the steps of this process were take the number, break it into Roman numeral chunks, which in our example were 1,000, 900, 500, 400, 100, 90, 50, 40, 10, 9, 5, 4, and 1. And then have those list of those discrete chunks and convert each one of those to a string and then join the string together. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and leave in the comments any suggestions that you have for future videos to complete. Thank you very much for tuning in today, and thank you for your support.